That alone. Formal difference strikes the eye, and essential unity kisses the heart. Verse number 47. To become of one faith is what everyone speaks of. This the proselytizers do not recognize. Wise men, freed of objections to another's faith, know the secret in full. Commentary. The key word in this verse is secret. The Guru says, there is a secret which is known to wise men and not remembered by people who are enthusiastic about enforcing their religion. In Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, ignorance is described as mistaking the non-self for the self. This can manifest in several ways: becoming identified with a morbid state of mind and losing flexibility, becoming infatuated with a certain idea of pleasure or gain and then hankering after it, becoming hateful of those who do not agree with you or who thwart your intentions in a situation of competition or rivalry, or by becoming subjected to passions that come as psychological compulsions. We can see all these in force in someone who becomes fanatical about an ideology. The ideology can be religious or political, a personal idiosyncrasy, or even a fad. When hate enters you, it is like you are possessed by an evil demon. It brings such a terrible block to your mind that you cannot see another's point of view. You become glued to one single stand, so that you can't move a little to one side to see that there could be another possibility. When I was in my mid-teens, I saw Mahatma Gandhi, the founder and father of modern India. He was revered as a great saint. He believed fervently in the non-violence of Christ, and he taught that India should be converted to a creed of pacifism. He taught that one should win another's heart by love. At that time, Britain was ruling India with full military force. To fight the British forces, which were armed with guns and bayonets, the Indians were made to march with slogans of non-violence and peace. As a young man, I thought this was very foolish. I had been extensively indoctrinated by the Marxist-Leninist groups, even somewhat brainwashed, to believe that the only possible redemption for India lay in a revolution organized exactly as the one in Russia had been. I had been made to believe that all of humanity could be divided into two groups, the exploiters and the exploited, the haves and the have-nots. However, it was difficult for me to decide whether my father was exploited or an exploiter. The mythical division into two classes, two class interests, and class warfare all looked very reasonable to me. I thought that if only Mahatma Gandhi read a little of Marx and understood his true philosophy, India would be saved. Little did I know that he had lived in England and had every access to all the literature of Marx and Lenin, and that he knew all about revolution. I was so young and stupid, yet fanatically indoctrinated. So I found my way to the inner circle of the saint and looked for an opportunity to present my gospel of class war to him. When my chance came, I gave him a non-stop oratory on class warfare, as well as how useless his method of non-violence was. He listened to me very carefully. That is my greatest surprise today. When I came to my final conclusion, he looked quite calm. Then he asked me, "Are you sincere?" That infuriated me. If I were not sincere, would I have gone out of my way to bring him this great message? I shouted that I was very sincere. He went on, "You are speaking with conviction?" "Of course. Do you think I have no conviction about what I say?" I had never thought of that before. I said, "Yes, you must have conviction." "Am I sincere?" "Maybe." "Are you not saying something which is in total contradiction to what I say?" "Yes." "Don't you see the possibility of two people with contradictory views, both having full conviction and sincerity?" "Yes." "You are asking me to stand in your footsteps and look. Have you ever considered the possibility of standing in my footsteps and looking? If I stand in your angle of vision, I will see what you see. That's what you want me to do. Suppose I invite you to stand in my angle of vision and look at the same thing. Are you prepared for that?" I was certainly not prepared, but I didn't say so. He continued, "Young man, truth has many facets. You can look at it from a number of points of view, and from each angle you will see a different perspective. All that you have said is known to me, but what I see you have no patience to consider." I thought that was right. Although I had been listening to him for a week, waiting for my opportunity to pontificate, I had never really listened to him. I was only listening to myself, to my objections, to whatever he was saying. This simple incident was a great turning point in my life. It completely silenced me. Thereafter, when I talked with another person, it always occurred to me that there could be one more way of looking at truth. I learned to step down from my pedestal and walk over to the other person's, to sympathetically get into his way of seeing. To me, this was the beginning of a great discovery of what a wonderful world we live in and how rich our human heritage is. Once you take a position with a closed mind, it is as if the treasures your forefathers have amassed in all parts of the world are brushed aside as being of no meaning to you. Then Christ becomes meaningless, Muhammad, Buddha, and Lao Tzu become meaningless. All the great thinkers, poets, and artists of other cultures and perspectives are only to be reviled. It took many centuries for the Greeks to imbibe the art that was developed in Egypt. From that, the Greek culture slowly rose up until they were able to bequeath many beautiful treasures to their gods of the finest carvings ever made by man. Then came along the Turks with a great slogan: "Every image made with a resemblance to anything on earth is against Allah." So they went around smashing all the beautiful marble carved by the master artists. That culture, its artistic production, those most beautiful expressions of the human mind were all mutilated in the name of a stupid idea. Still, that was only the destruction of dead matter. How often is it expressed with the cutting of throats in the name of the all-beneficent, the all-compassionate. This is what is called the blindness that comes from asmita, wrong identity. When Narayana Guru came to the Shivagiri Mutt, there was already a small shrine there. In the shrine was a spear representing Subramanya. Worship was offered to it by a priest. After a while, another priest came, who became very devoted to Narayana Guru. He said, "What are these stupid fools doing? They are worshipping a spear when our Guru is here. We should put something of Guru there instead of the spear. He threw the spear away and put a discarded pair of Narayana Guru's sandals on the altar and started worshipping them. The first man became extremely annoyed that his object of worship had been thrown away and replaced by a new thing. He went and complained to the Guru. Narayana Guru called both of them and asked, "Why was this man worshipping a spear? Is the spear God?" "No, I know the spear is not God, but when I see it, I think of God and become reverent." "So it stands for God?" "Yes." He turned to the other and said, "Why did you throw it away?" "Because it is superstitious to think of a spear as God." "Why did you put the wooden sandals there?" "Because they are the Guru's." "Am I God?" "There is the living God within you. Am I those sandals? When I see them, I think of you." The other man is doing exactly the same thing. Then the Guru went on, "Do you think that I can only become wooden sandals? I can also become a spear." The fetish is a psychological disease of the mind. In the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjun asks, "How should I worship you? As the formless, nameless, transcendent reality, or as one with a form?" Krishna answers him, "The purest form of understanding is to know truth in principle. But for people with uninstructed minds, it becomes very difficult. They need some medium of presentation. But then people tend to forget that it is a representation and not the original. No analogy to the Absolute can ever be complete. All analogies illustrate only a particular aspect of essential reality. There is a wholesale difference between the Absolute and a relativistic version of it. That is why it is said that the Tao that can be spoken of is not the Tao. And yet it is spoken of in 10,001 words. So many words are needed because each one is only a partial expression. It can never be a total expression. This is the rahasya, the secret. Henry Bergson puts this idea very beautifully, using several examples. He speaks of the Absolute as the gold coin, which can never be equaled by any number of copper pennies. Again, he discusses how a verse written in another language, which comes straight from a poet's inspiration and vision, can be translated many times, but the translations can only approximate the original and never communicate its full sense. Then he continues, suppose you go to Paris and walk around Notre Dame Cathedral and take hundreds of pictures from inside, outside, and above. Then you bring them home and juxtapose them all and show them to someone. No matter how the photographs are presented, they can never convey the overwhelming experience of actually walking into Notre Dame and being there, because each one is only a partial view. One who knows the inner secret won't quarrel with anyone who is giving a partial view. Without exception, all the proselytizers are giving only partial views. Narayana Guru mentioned this in an earlier verse when he brought in the idea of the blind men examining the elephant. Now he wants us to know one more secret. When I say, listen to me, it means that I have a piece of truth to show you. When I show it to you, you and I will be knowers of that one truth, and this will unite us. Narayana Guru arranged for a parliament of religion, which he called a confluence of all religions. There he displayed a watchword. It is not to argue and win, but to know and let know. If you are arguing to win, then you have already decided that the other person's point of view is wrong and yours is right. When you say, "Let me know from you," you have already admitted that there is a great treasure in the other person's understanding, and it is valuable to share it. Through the sharing, you can become one with the other person. The I will change into we when you also offer, "I have something to let you know." You are seeing what treasure is in your possession, and the joy of sharing it with another person makes it all the more worthwhile. Thus you share yours with another, and they share theirs with you. You open up a tremendous opportunity. This is the wise man's secret. Even when a Jehovah's Witness comes with his enthusiastic talk, he is so hopeful of the good that might come out of it, that both will become good witnesses of Jehovah, that a unity will arise where there is currently only duality. His intention is that if all the peoples of the world are brought to his point of view, there will only be one religion. Then the world will become very good, and we would all become brothers, comrades, fellow men. So you can accept this from him, even though he may not accept anything from you. When you walk into the lives of people of different faiths and are not just watching them as members of some religion, but soaking into their minds, living the life they live, and offering the prayers they give, when you really enter into the spirit of it, it enthralls you. It brings the same truth with another quality, another kind of sweetness. Sri Ramakrishna tried one religion after another for his realization. On each occasion, the ecstasy he experienced had a special flavor of its own. When he wanted to know God the Christian way, he constantly went to church, sat before the priest in all veneration, and read the Bible with earnestness. He fasted and prayed and thought of none but Jesus. When he wanted to experience the Absolute as Allah, he clothed himself as a Muslim, sat with their mullahs, listened endlessly to the Quran, and did the 5 kinds of veneration, namaz. He observed their fasts. He experienced the special quality of each religion in depth, but in spite of all the differences, he could see the essence as the same. Why should we give up such great treasures when only superficial differences stand in our way? Nobody stops us except our own foolishness and fanaticism. In this there is double gain or double loss. Not only regarding religion, you can use this in your daily life, with your family, between husband and wife, among friends, neighbors, lovers, at the office, basically between you and any other person you come to transact with. You can see that there is another way of looking at things. Instead of a unilateral or linear way of thinking, there can be a dialectical coming together. The key is being able to change positions, to see the other person's point of view. You cannot have a vested interest in clinging to your own position. This approach was used quite well by Fritz Perls in his existential therapy, where he would have a person switch back and forth between 2 chairs representing 2 different sides of a conflict. It's really a wonderful way of teaching how identifying with 2 polemics can bring a new flexibility to the mind. A new lucidity can be achieved. It subtly brings you to a neutral zero. You are neither this nor that. In the 100th verse, Narayana Guru is going to tell us, Adum idum Allah. It is neither that nor this. Try this in your own life, with your family and friends. you will make a wonderful world. Nobody wants to have factionalism, but even as you are attempting to bring unity, you become part of a faction. It is in the name of unity that you are creating all these factions in the first place. Nataraju Guru gives the example of people making noise in a room. One man becomes very enthusiastic to bring silence, so he goes to the middle of the room and starts shouting, "Don't make noise. There is already so much sound here." He is only adding to the hubbub going on there. Instead of contributing his own silence, he makes it worse by shouting. So the true knower of this secret withholds from all disputes. The Guru made this so central to his teaching because it is in the name of this one dispute that we have been killing each other since the dawn of human history. There has been more bloodshed in the name of religion than there is water in the 7 oceans put together. It is such an important question for all mankind. If the dignity of man is to be enhanced, we need to find a solution to this eternal riddle of man killing man in the name of an opinion. There are 2 more verses before we reach the culmination of this line of thought. A free translation of verse 47 is as follows: "In principle, all are aimed at arriving at the same faith. Disputants do not realize this. Wise people who are free of sectarian exclusiveness know the secret in full."